everyone. Can everyone hear me? Is this on? Okay, thank you. And welcome to beautiful, beautiful Hibernian Hall. Thank you so much for hosting us here. As you see, we are surrounded by arts and culture. My name is Michelle Wu. I am chair of the Boston City Council's Committee on Arts, Culture, and Special Events. Very excited to be here on chairing the hearing for docket number 1304, a resolution to establish a state-authorized cultural district in Roxbury, sponsored by Councillor Tito Jackson, co-sponsored by Councillor Ayanna Presley, and we are also joined by City Councillor at Large Anissa Asabi-George. You'll hear more from all of us shortly, and we wanted to start this thing off right. And just a quick reminder, apologies, that we are being videotaped. Our council usually live streams hearings, but when we do offsite, we haven't quite gotten the technology yet, so this will be taped and put up on our website in a day or two, so you can send it around to anyone who's not here, but be aware that this will be replayed on City Council TV as well. Thank you again, and to start us off, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa Lee.
This pen will laugh, and this pen will cry. The truth shall it speak, and never a lie. The ink from this pen will mark history made, and its permanence will not soon fade. For this pen has volumes of thoughts to provoke, stimulating the intellect with every pen stroke. This pen will act, speak, not, with no depth of thought for the hour of the clock. Well, maybe she'll rest, but only to think. But this pen shall not soon run out of ink. This pen will dance on many a page, and all the world shall be its stage. Round the globe and back again, behold, my friend, the well-rounded pen, endorsing its millions with its nom de plume. Said Solomon to his son, a man's gift maketh him room, and bringeth him before great men. You witness today, elated pen. Grateful to God this pen shall remain, and thank you shall be as much echoed refrain. And thank you shall be as much echoed refrain. And thank you shall be as much echoed refrain. Wow. Once again, my name is Lisa Lee. I am an artist of many disciplines, including that of the written and spoken word, which is, of course, why I'm here. And as much as I try to stay away from the common everyday cliche, I have to say that there is power in the spoken word. Death and life are in fact in the power of the tongue. I'll even go on to say that there's power in the written and spoken word, which is why I move my pen and why I lift my voice. This is that for which I am created. It's that for which I am chosen. So as I carry on, I intend to carry out that with which I am endowed, and it's my responsibility to write deep, step sure, and speak loud. It's the debt I owe to those who have gone before me and stood in front of me, enduring countless indignities so that I might walk through that front door and all of my femininity and all of my eccentricity in this brown shade of black and be heard out and be heard as I speak, spit, and spread this smoke and sometimes broken spoken word. Can you appreciate that? Mm-hmm. All right. Do I need this? I don't need this, do I? I don't need it. Okay. So you know you're at home when you know which way to go, but the street names you don't always necessarily know. Feels good when your feet hit familiar ground, and you can declare with certain confidence, I know my way around. Well, these parts round here hold that truth for me, and these streets, avenues, roads, and boulevards write their own poetry. And let's keep one thing clear. You damn well better believe there's a pulse here, and with this pulse there is no ceasing while we're sleeping. It has a nightlife. It keeps right on beating, and it beats on, and it beats, and it beats on, and it beats. And we are all contributors to its rhythm. We have the pessimist pessimism and the optimist optimism. We have representation of all colored collars, hoodlums and scholars with and without dollars. We have the hungry and driven, adjacent to the prematurely satisfied and complacent. And the energy of our young and the inventiveness of urban tongue. We have Miles Davis, Duke Ellington, Aerosmith, Jay-Z, 2 Chainz, Chopin, Rachmaninoff. And the beat goes on and on. There is no on and off. And it beats on. And it beats. And it beats on. And it beats. It knows no bias, neither heeds prejudice, beckon, nor its call. You see, it's cognizant of the fact that it exists because of us all. It's the working of harmony of skin tones and common ground, and lessons to be learned from it all around. It's comprised of the excellence and imperfections of its people. It's quiet, meditation, it's temple, dome, and steeple, grit, blood, sweat, tears, and spit. It's instinct and intellect, creativity, concrete, and trees. It's the good, bad, and ugly that takes up residence in all of our individual memories. See, we are humankind in passive battle against time and chance-induced circumstance. That creates a rhythm to which we insist there be song and dance. We compose a collective lyric. As we as individuals seek to discover the meaning of this stretch of our journey, we choreograph that dance. We, a flash mob of busy, ripping and running, twisting and turning until we're damn near dizzy. See, all this makes a city move. It's its current, its rhythm. Yo, it's its groove, and it picks up high-octane momentum as our individual hearts beat in the same room. Together, boom, boom, boom. Feel it? Together, boom, boom, boom. And it beats on, and it beats, and it beats on, and it beats. Say it with me. It beats on, and it beats, and it beats on, and it beats, and it beats on, and it beats, and it beats on. And it beats. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Lisa. There is incredible power, as you see and as all of us in this room know, there's incredible power in arts and culture, and there's incredible power in this community. So I am very proud to have the tiny part of just chairing today's proceedings and supporting our 2 lead sponsors on this item, and representing the rest of the City Council in offering our support to making sure this happens with full community participation and with all due haste. So just so you have a sense of what the flow of the evening will look like, I'm going to hand it over to each one of my colleagues for opening remarks. Then we will hear briefly from our Chief of Arts and Culture for the City of Boston, who is here with us. Then we will have 2 panels of 3 esteemed individuals each, with Q&A from the counselors. After the panels conclude, then we will open it up for public testimony from anyone who wishes to offer just a few minutes of their thoughts. If you do want to sign up for public testimony, please remember to check the box and sign in on the sheets which are near the doors, so we'll be ready when the time comes. And then we will adjourn after that. So proud to pass it over to the lead sponsor and District 7 City Councilor Tito Jackson.
Thank you, Madam President and Madam Chair in the same person. I do want to acknowledge the historic nature of what we are doing here today, but I also want to acknowledge the historic nature of these women on the Boston City Council. Actually, Councilor Presley is the first woman of color to serve on the Boston City Council in its over 100-year history. I know we're technically not supposed to clap, but we are in Roxbury and we're going to break the news. That also means that Councilor Wu is the second woman of color to serve on the council, and she is also the first woman of color to serve as president of the Boston City Council in its over 100-year history. And the third woman of color to serve on the Boston City Council, Councilor Anissa Sabi George. And we have another sister on the council who could not be present tonight, Andrea Campbell. So things are changing on the council, but we want to celebrate what has been and always has been in Roxbury. I want to give huge props to Sister Lisa Lee. I'm a little upset about the schedule because I don't want to be behind her because of the great work and words that she has put together. We want to give our propers to the Roxbury Center for the Arts, as well as the great work that actually happens in this building in Hibernian Hall. Roxbury is the center of art for the Black universe in the state of Massachusetts, and I would argue it is the center of the universe for Black art in all of New England. And this place in Roxbury has been here since 1630. It actually predated the city of Boston. And I just wanted to note that we not only celebrate art, but we celebrate movement, not only physical movement, but we celebrate Malcolm X and Ella Collins. We celebrate Ruth Batson. We celebrate Melnia Cass. And the reason why we still have a Roxbury and there's not a highway that is going through our neighborhood and our community, and the heroes and sheroes who stood and ensured, because I don't know if people remember, 95 starts in Florida, comes all the way up to Main straight, but in Canton it takes a left turn and goes around Roxbury and reconnects in Peabody. That is the power of our community. And we celebrate and honor those heroes and sheroes that passed this on to us here today. We celebrate New Edition and Michael Bivens and the folks who grew up right around the corner from here. But mostly we celebrate the people who stayed here, who made this place safe, who made it one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the city of Boston. I have people who stumble through my office on a regular basis who want to tell me how great Roxbury is. And I let them go on and I let them know, I already know that. I've been here for my whole life, and I'm glad that you now know the greatness of this area. And this is not about our buildings, it's about the people. It's about the people. It's about the people in these neighborhoods and communities who've shown resilience. They've shown the ability to innovate in some of the most difficult times that we've had in this city. And what we get to honor today, and hopefully we can speak into to life, is honoring that resilience for the people who are currently here. When we talk about city planning, my plan is not for those people who will come. My plan is for those people who are already here, how we continue to uplift them, how we continue to uplift our artists. And this, lastly, I think it's so important that we recognize every artist as an entrepreneur. Every artist is an entrepreneur and adds to the business fabric of our neighborhoods and our communities. And it is a way that we need more ownership of businesses in our community. And we need to support the businesses in our neighborhood and community. I'm gonna have to say that one more time. Can a brother get an amen? We need to support the businesses in our neighborhood and community. And with that said, we need to support the artists in our community. And so I am so happy to sponsor this, but I'm more happy that no one person brought this forward. That's not how we do it in Roxbury. This was a group of amazing, a tapestry of amazing and beautiful and, people who have foresight and understand we need to acknowledge what is in this neighborhood. We need to give people their propers, and their props and their flowers while they're here versus when they're gone either physically from here or geographically from here. And so that is why we are pushing this forward. We can have a conversation about boundaries and all of those things, but tonight is a celebration of one of the greatest places on earth, I believe, which is Roxbury and the greatness that is here. And I look forward to building with all of you to take this to the state level so we get the acknowledgement that we deserve and that we know is the greatness of Roxbury. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. And now the co-sponsor of this resolution and at-large City Councillor Ayanna Presley.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Procedurally, this City Council hearing is one of the final steps required by the Mass Cultural Council in the application process to seek state designation for a cultural district in Roxbury. This has been a very long process. And to use that casual phrase, teamwork makes the dream work. And what we love about this, when we first started on this sojourn many years ago, the Massachusetts Cultural Council coined this as something that is community-driven and government-endorsed. And that is the best kind of collaboration. And so, fortunately, we have such an embarrassment of riches, both in the coalition that advanced this and also in the artistic, cultural, and historical assets in Roxbury, that it has taken us this long to arrive at this point in the process. We made history in seeing Fenway as the first designation in the city of Boston. We made history in establishing the first literary arts district in the country. And today we'll make history again. And this has been a long time coming because for all intents and purposes, many of us believe that Roxbury was the most shovel-ready, if you will, when it comes to existing assets. But we had to do a lot of work to get to consensus around what would be dense and walkable and place-based and truly highlight all that Roxbury has to offer as a source of pride for people who already live here and as a incentive to make Roxbury a destination location for people who don't know about the art and history and culture that lives here. So I just want to say thank you to all the stakeholders. I mean, there's almost 40 of them. I can't name them all. And we can't live stream this, as the council president was saying. We don't have the technology, notice that she underscored yet. But you can make people a part of what's happening here by live tweeting. We've come so far that the Roxbury Cultural District now has a Facebook and a Twitter. So please do make folks a part of this broader community in this discussion. And again, just thanks to all of the stakeholders and to those who participated in the 3 community meetings and who provided their input online as to what should go into this district. And then just in closing, I would say to Lisa Lee, you make us so proud that we are lending our elated voices to your elated pen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Presley. And now, City Councillor at Large, Anissa Asabi-George.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and to participate in this process with you. I think that it started a little bit before I came, so I'm happy to swing in on their coattails through this final process. I do have to say that it's so exciting, I think, to follow after Miss Lisa Lee because she certainly sets the stage for the excitement and the empowerment of this process and the joy that she obviously takes in her practice and in her art and her craft is I think toxic. So I'm excited. I am a crafter and I'm excited to go home and knit something or sew something this evening. But in the process, I'm looking forward to this work that's before us and the success that your community and the work that you've done through this process to date. I'm excited to be a part of that process and to cross that finish line, but to not be prematurely satisfied and to make sure that this work continues. I took a few notes, and I look forward to all of that in this evening as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And before we transition to the panels now, I wanted to invite up and celebrate our Chief of Arts and Culture for the City of Boston, Julie Burrows. Chief, if you could speak from this microphone. Just to give a little update, Chief Burrows is the first cabinet-level position arts and culture head ever for the City of Boston, and we are so proud of the work that she is doing. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Burrows. I'm the Chief of Arts and Culture for the City of Boston. That means I head up the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. And my office is a partner in all of the cultural districts in Boston. My staff have been attending all of the meetings and has been a resource to this effort. And we want to continue to be involved in the effort as a resource to help find resources, as a partner, and to support this effort. And we recently issued a cultural plan for the City of Boston called Boston Creates. We brought a few copies in the back and some postcards and buttons for people to take. And of course, we had many, many community meetings for the cultural plan. It was created with lots and lots of input. As a matter of fact, meetings in this very room. So thank you, Hibernian Hall, for being such a great cultural partner. The plan has 5 key goals, and cultural districts really resonate with several of those goals. And I just wanted to really quickly review some of those goals. One of them is to cultivate a city where all cultural traditions and expressions are respected, promoted, and equitably resourced, and where opportunities to engage with arts and culture are accessible to all. We firmly believe that cultural districts very much help to achieve that goal. Another goal is to integrate arts and culture into all aspects of civic life. And finally, a goal that I think is so important and evidence of it happening right here is to mobilize likely and unlikely partners to collaborate, generate demand, support, advocate, and of course to grow the resources. So again, we're so delighted to see cultural districts emerging and that they align so closely with the goals of the cultural plan. And we're very happy to be a partner in the effort, and we very much support the cultural district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. So now we will, this really, Councilor Isabi George was saying this feels like a presidential forum the way we're set up and the lighting. So we're going to swing over this direction to our first panel.
We want this for every council.
We're going to swing over to our first panel. We have 3 individuals who will take questions and give a brief presentation if you wish each. Kelly Chun, Principal of Kelly Chun and Associates and Cultural District Consultant. Marshall Hughes, Director of Visual, Performing, and Media Arts at Roxbury Community College. And Kathy Cotaridis, Cultural District Planning Committee Member and also Executive Director of Historic Boston. So if you each, whatever order you would choose, if you could just introduce yourself, state your name and address for the record, and feel free to give an opening statement.
Good evening. I don't know if this is on. I'm Kelly Chun. I'm a resident of 89 Fort Avenue in Highland Park, the Highland Park neighborhood or the Fort Hill neighborhood, whichever one you choose. And I want to thank the councilors Wu, Ayanna Presley, Tito Jackson, and Sabi George for coming to Hibernian Hall this evening to hear all about the district. It's been quite a journey. This is only the latest chapter in a long conversation that Councilor Presley alluded to about having a cultural district in the community of Roxbury. It started decades ago, and I think one of the other panelists, Barry Gaither, was part of that initial conversation. More recently, we would need to give props to Discover Roxbury and to the Roxbury Cultural Network for really encouraging the city of Boston to see the neighborhood of Roxbury through the lens of arts and culture. We know as Roxbury residents that Roxbury is rich in arts and cultural assets, people, places, artistic expression, and organizations that connect both residents and visitors to this diverse neighborhood's past and its future. However, many of those assets are underused by both residents and people who are not familiar with the neighborhood, or only see it through the lens of pathology, crime, violence, and don't really see the assets that those who live in the community experience. So the arts and cultural assets remain relatively unknown to those beyond the neighborhood. We see this as a missed opportunity to connect people to both the important historic story that Roxbury has to tell, and also to reap the potential economic opportunities that a district would have for residents, artists, business owners, and entrepreneurs that are aligned with a more vibrant cultural district. So we see the proposed district as being a platform or anchor to connect people through the arts, to tell the story of Roxbury, and to drive economic revitalization of the neighborhood in a way that will benefit artists and residents. Just quickly, the planning process involved 3 major conveners and many community-based partners. The conveners, the Madison Park Development Corporation, Haley House, and the American City Coalition really led what has been a community-based process. We've been meeting over the course of the past several months since last March, including an advisory committee which was open to all, meeting every other week at the American City Coalition on Washington Street in the Dudley Square area. We've had several public meetings, one at Northeastern Crossing, one at the Dudley Branch Library, and the third one was at the Bowling Building, not necessarily in that order. These were opportunities for residents to come and help in the public planning process for the district. So out of that, for the rest of my remarks, I will just go into what some of the conversations arrived at by way of proposal for vision, mission, and governance. But let me start with the geographic location for what we're calling the hub, or the Roxbury Cultural District. The proposed core district comprises historic Dudley Square and nearby John Elliott Square, which is another historic neighborhood. These 2 areas, which again would comprise the core district, are both walkable. They are artistically, culturally, and commercially dense, and those are some of the criteria that are mandated by the Massachusetts Cultural Council for them to designate a district. In terms of a vision, and again, this is a draft. I should note that the application to the Mass Cultural Council is in draft form, and it is available on the website for the community to view. So it is still in process. It's not etched in stone. You'll find that at roxburyculturaldistrict.org. The vision, we envision the cultural district as a platform to lift up the community of Roxbury as a living repository of arts and cultural expression, past, present, and future. The mission, and again, the vision and the mission were informed by the series of public meetings that we've had over the course of the past few months. The community identified the following mission statement: to build and maintain a cultural district that identifies and recognizes Roxbury's cultural assets and establishes the tools, strategies, resources, and spaces needed to sustain and grow the district's activities. And toward that end, over the course of the last several months, we've generated some 40, as Councilor Presley alluded to, community partners. I won't list them all. They're all noted on the website, but they include Jazz Boston, the Bay State Banner, the Daryl's Corner Bar and Grill, DSNI, the logos are so small, the Boston Public School Department through their arts programming, Nuestra Comunidad, the Timothy Smith Network, United Housing Management, Venture Cafe, Sasaki, which donated pro bono mapping services, the Celebrity Series, and so forth. So there are many community partners that have taken this journey with us. And I'll close, so we can move on to the next panelist, with an acknowledgement of some of the concerns that we've heard about gentrification and its relation to the formation of a cultural district in Roxbury. We understand those concerns, but the cultural district, the formation of the district, is really a grassroots, from the bottom up effort to support local artists and create an inclusive economy to benefit artists and residents. And the principles of inclusion and equity are reflected in our goals. Briefly, because these are on the website, those goals include activating our arts and cultural assets in Roxbury and marketing community-based programming, community economic development, using arts and culture and the creative economy to stimulate inclusive economic development and increase the amount of money spent and circulated in Roxbury. Let me repeat that. Increase the amount of money spent and circulated in Roxbury through arts and culture and the creative economy. Building out the environment. What we heard in some of those public meetings was the need for physical spaces, affordable spaces, and facilities for artists, and the importance of leave it there and take your questions.
Why don't we do opening statements from each panelist, and then we'll do questions to the group.
Good evening, my name is Marshall Hughes. I'm the Director of Visual Performing and Media Arts, and I'd like to thank the councilors for being here. I won't say welcome, I'll say welcome back, because you're always here. It's great to see you again. Roxbury Community College is sitting in a very nice place. We have T access, we have bus access, we have pedestrian access. We're also kind of the entranceway to what is an amazing cultural district here, from art, from Barry Gaither's studio to this theater that we're sitting in. And I think that we're the young kids on the block. I don't mean that we've been the shortest, but I think that our building is new. And these buildings have been here for years. They've been regenerated and retrofitted to something that's pretty amazing. And that's not without the talents of the people who are within the building and utilize the buildings. We're very happy to be able to host the first, what I like to call Roxbury Repertory Theater, which is the community theater that is made up of non-equity actors and anybody as well to come to be in the company. Also, we're happy to say that we've got lots of grants this year. We have a really wonderful director of development who has made real good friends with Boston Cultural Council. I'm really happy with that, with Mass Cultural Council, and we plan to do a lot of renovations at the campus. We have a 500-seat proceeding theater space that I'm happy to say gets used a lot through the community. We have to do a delicate balance because we don't have a lot of money, so we have a sort of sliding scale thing that's happening. We try to not only provide space for those who can't afford it, but we also utilize the space for civic engagement. A lot of you have been there to see Senator Warren, for instance. She gave her inauguration at the college. And the college itself is going through lots of changes through metamorphosis. But one of the things that I think is very stable the fact that we can share it with the community. And I'm going to leave it there.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Coteridas, and I am a resident of 41 Morton Street in the former Roxbury neighborhood of Jamaica Plain. And for those of you who know your history, you know what I mean. But by day, I come to 20 Eustis Street in Roxbury, which is the Eustis Street Firehouse, commonly known, the oldest remaining firehouse in the city of Boston, built before Roxbury merged with Boston, and a really important piece of art. Been empty for quite some time, but I think, and we valued it, certainly we're a historic preservation organization that redevelops historic buildings for new uses, but, and so naturally we care about that sort of thing, but to us what was so amazing was on the day we dedicated that building, Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, I think, or 11 o'clock in the morning, and we had at least 200 people there, which to us said that this was a place that mattered to this community, that you would cut out in the middle of the morning on a weekday and come and dedicate it. And I think that we have discovered by being here now, having moved into that building as a citywide organization, that Roxbury is a very special place, and Dudley in particular is the anchor of that special flavor. So we are very excited about a cultural district because we think Dudley is, and Roxbury, and the district as proposed is filled with many gems like the Eustis Street Firehouse that can be reused, that can be repositioned if necessary, but can also be discovered by visitors and residents alike. And that one of our great opportunities here is not just to activate the economy of the neighborhood through culture and art, but also to acquaint people with the richness of the many layers of this neighborhood over time. And that's our great and happy challenge, really. But architecture is an art, and history really is an ally of the arts, and we have good stories to tell and great buildings to show off. Dudley, as you know, historically was at the other end of Roxbury Neck, and so the geographical growth of Boston can be told through an orientation to Dudley Square. But as Councilor Jackson referenced, this is also a crossroads for a lot of other activities that show the backbone of this community and what the communities care about over time. And it should be through teaching the stories of the evolution of the city geographically, the Roxbury Neck being filled in for Back Bay and the South Bay, and for the organizing in protest to the Inner-Belt Highway, to the more modern efforts at reinvestment and the creation of places like Roxbury Community College along Columbus Ave. It's Columbus, yes. Are really great stories that should inspire the history that will be written going forward and the buildings that will be built. So we see historic preservation as being a piece of the cultural district's expression. It should be also seen as a way to create vessels for the kind of art and culture activity that will go on through the district's activities, the cultural programming, and there are opportunities for that, but we also see it as a way to re-energize and create identity for this place. I would also argue that this is the kind that historic buildings and places and the expression of culture that will come in all of these places over time through a cultural district will also inspire the kind of planning and development that happens in this neighborhood going forward. And this will be a great opportunity to really, for policymakers and planners to think about the richness of Roxbury over time and the richness expressed through the people who live here now, and the art, culture, music, places like this can really inspire the way people use the district going forward, so that the Dudley and the Roxbury of the future doesn't look like just any other place, that it looks like the special place that it is and that it will be and continue to be. I will stop there, but we'll look forward to your questions. And thank you, by the way, for being here this evening.
I just want to add one other thing. I forgot to say where I lived. And I live right around the corner. I just have a house right around the corner from where Mel Cass lived. So it's really fun. And one of my wonderful little anecdotes I like to say is I first remembered Councilman Jackson shoveling the snow in front of one of the neighbors' houses because she called and said she couldn't get out. So.
Thank you very much to each of our panelists. I'm going to pass it over to Councilor Jackson for questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, I want to thank all of the folks who've gotten together to do this, and in particular the conveners. So just the original boundaries of the town of Roxbury can be found in Drake's history of Roxbury. For the young people, it's not that Drake. Those boundaries include the Christian Science Center, the Prudential Center, built on the old Roxbury Railroad yards, and everything south and east of the Muddy River, including Symphony Hall, Northeastern University, Boston Latin School, John D. O'Brien School of Math and Science, YMCA, Harvard Medical School, and many hospitals and schools in the area. This side of the Muddy River is Roxbury, the other side is Brookline and Boston. Franklin Park, once entirely within Roxbury, when Jamaica Plain, West Roxbury, and Rosendale were villages within the town of Roxbury until 1854, and it goes on. So just a question around and actually I do want to note that Melnia Cass is approximately over the Roxbury Canal, and there were boats that actually, instead of getting into the traffic jam in Boston Harbor, what you would do, you cut through a side street, right? So you would actually come in to Roxbury Canal. And now even there is a Roxbury cider that's made by the russet apple, which is the first cultivated apple in the United States of America. All of this history. The geography question, though, I just want to pose to you, with all of the great things that we have in Roxbury, and when we look at the great work that Jazz Boston does, and we have Wally's, Slade's, and all of these other areas. Can you give us a feel around the actual geography, and channeling my inner Representative Rushing? Can you give us an understanding of that? Actually, now that I did the history, I feel even more connected to him. But can you give us an understanding of the geography, why the geography, and also is it set in stone relative to what we're trying to do here?
No, it's not set in stone, and that's why I tried to characterize it less as a district with defined boundaries in the way that it would be implemented as a district and operated as a district, and more as a hub. Particularly if you get off of the street and you go online, then the cultural district really does become a state of mind. So while, because of the Cultural Council's criteria that a district as defined, as narrowly defined, be walkable, be full of arts and cultural assets and be culturally dense, which speaks to making the district a destination, which would help to drive the local economy, ideally provide jobs for residents, keep money circulating in the community. That's why we proposed the district in the form that we did. But once it's operated, it gives, in much the same way as the literary district, which is, I think, the most recent outside of the Latin Quarter and Jamaica Plain. But if you look at the literary district, when they were, once they were given their designation, they started promoting literary events in Cambridge and other parts of the Boston area. So in much the same way, I see the Roxbury Cultural District as promoting arts and culture throughout the community of Roxbury, and with a nod to the map of 1868 that Representative Rushing encouraged us to use in our application, and which will be kind of an addendum to the application, but we're still very cognizant that in order to get the designation, we need to identify a core district. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And I guess the last couple of just statements. I love the concept of destination, because I think we use the word hub, but the only issue I have with the hub is that everyone goes to a hub, but then they leave it. And I love the concept of Dudley and Roxbury being more than a pass-through and a transaction that actually happens at a T station, but for people to actually stay here, and also to turn it on at night. To have a area that is open past our bedtime. And that actually continues to generate that level of interaction and excitement that it used to. And then I guess the other component, you brought some of this up, I think it's critical that when we are planning housing, affordable housing for artists, lofts, as well as maker spaces for artists, that we actually are thoughtful in our planning. I know there's a Plan Dudley exercise that's going on, and that component has, and we actually just asked last night for and demanded that a housing study be done, because as we develop, we don't want to displace. And that is absolutely critical with what we're doing here. The development that we want are for individuals to be able to sustain themselves, to be able to do better, and to elevate rather than to displace the folks that are here. And I guess the last piece is it's great to have fun. Which we, and you kind of brought it up earlier around, this mentality that there's a psychosis that happens in our neighborhood and in our community. We have for years, literally in this space, this is our Irish Cultural Center, and there were a bunch of dances here. So I think it's critical that we continue to engage our community and fun, in particular our young people. Through the challenge and struggle, they go through a lot, but we also need to have places where our young people can actually be young people and simply have just great old fun. So I look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Presley.
Thank you. Thank you all again for your love of Roxbury. And for all that you've contributed to this process. And Councillor Jackson, to your point about what has happened in this space, and while we take a moment, not to be self-congratulatory, but just to acknowledge that it was historic, that your swearing in took place here. And that was the first city councilor swearing in to take place in the district. So, which gets to sort of transitions to my broader point. The mapping process, what that afforded us to do was the opportunity to affirm that history is something that lives, it is not static, it is dynamic and all around us. I was looking closely at the draft map to make sure that not just our higher ed institutions, but our elementary and high school institutions were included. All of us, I can't speak for all of us, but I presume care about having an ethnocentric curriculum within our Boston public schools. And, when you have a school that exists within Roxbury, that curriculum is actually all around them, but they might not know that. So I never want us to lose sight of the opportunity to connect our students to that history. We've seen incredible things happen with the archaeological dig. We gave a shout out to Malcolm X. We got to shout out Ella Collins too. Let me just say that. His sister. But so I just want to make sure that we can be intentional about those sorts of collaborations and cross-pollinating and even do that cross-pollinating in marketing with neighboring neighborhoods where they will, in businesses that will, I don't know if that's with coupons or, that kind of thing. But as far as I just want to say how much I appreciate your mission highlighting the prioritization of increasing the amount of money spent and circulated. We will never change the reality for Black folks, close this growing chasm of income inequality, change the Fed's color of wealth report if we are not making that a #1 priority. And that does get to your issue, Councilor Jackson, relative to development without displacement. This is about the creative economy. And there's a double bottom line here, because this is about civic and culture. But there's a double bottom line, because it's a social good, but it is also stands to be quite beneficial. And that's what initially appealed to me about this, because Philadelphia had been one of the first cultural districts in the country. And again, revenue neutral to create, but generated millions of dollars. So I want to get into the money a little bit. So can we speak to any projections? And secondly, one of the challenges, as I recall, when we first started this, maybe it was the second or third iteration, is that even though we say it's revenue neutral, there is cost. So it's not zero. And so you have had some fiscal agents, and sort of how will the cultural district function? So who will be the fiscal agent? Who will be the operator? Will there be an executive director? Are there predictions in terms of revenue projections?
We are still in the process of formulating a governance structure.
Okay.
In looking at other cultural districts across the state, you probably know there are about 35 cultural districts around the Commonwealth. There are a broad assortment of governance structures. Our advisory committee, with input at the hearings, or not the hearings, but the public meetings that we've had, kind of veered toward a board, a formal board structure. We have had conversations about having an executive director, but we haven't really reached a decision on that. But certainly a board as a governance body. But in addition, having an advisory committee where community residents who form an audience, an arts public, so to speak, would serve as ambassadors for the district, and who could also sit on an advisory committee in addition to sitting on the board.
Okay.
So those are some of the kinds of conversations that we've had.
And so that was my
governance.
next question. So you've been conferring with existing and successful cultural districts about their governance,
right,
and also lessons learned. Because one of the things I remember about the Fenway designation is right after it was designated, they were changing T routes. And so because the transit plan had been recalibrated, it was impacting foot traffic. So I just want to make sure that we are getting those lessons and takeaways from existing districts, because as you highlighted, beyond the vision and the mission, there's governance and sustainability.
Exactly.
And we want to really stick on that sustainability part.
And in terms of the revenue projections, we're just not there yet, Councilor.
Okay, it's too early.
That's, it's too early. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Presley. Councilor Asabi George.
Thank you. I would be especially interested in some of the economics behind new revenue that could be brought into the community going forward once a cultural designation was made. Can you speak to any of the new possible grants or funding streams that become available when this designation happens?
Well, part of the strategy around funding was to form community-based partnerships. So as we get the designation, there would be an ask, and there would be a membership structure that would be staggered, so that if you're a resident and you're an audience member and you want to take advantage of the arts and cultural offerings, you would be at one membership rate. But if you're an institution, either in the public sector or in the private sector, especially in the private sector, your membership dues would be higher. And that is a model that some of the other cultural districts are using. But it's interesting that you would ask that question, because as we were doing outreach for potential partners in the private sector, one of the banks, which shall remain nameless, they said, well, would you like a grant? And it was a $10,000 grant, kind of seed money for the district. And it was premature. I mean, we plan on having a nonprofit structure, obviously, that would go along with governance. But that was part of the strategy for developing the community partnerships, that this might be a potential pool of not only community partners, but potential funders as well. So that's definitely part of the strategy going forward.
I imagine that this could also open some doors on the national level or through the federal level, whether private or government or nonprofit.
Yes, and we have talked about funding and how that is really critical for the sustainability of the district. If it's really going to be meaningful and there's going to be connectivity between the arts organizations that are in the district, the arts and cultural and historic organizations, then there needs to be funding to help with the promotion and the marketing of the district. So we've had a lot of conversations about funding and how to come up with a fundraising strategy.
Great, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. The only question I would add is about the Mass Cultural Council, since they are, with the process being that the Boston City Council must vote, but then the ultimate designating authority is the MCC. How involved have they been? Have they done a walkthrough? Have they been at the community meetings, et cetera?
They have been a resource for questions and for guidance as we fill out the application. And again, the application is the draft. It's not finished. It's in process. Is available on the website. But we anticipate submitting that application to the council within the next few weeks, and then they're expected to do a walkthrough. And then with the formal support from the city, it would then go to a formal consideration by the Mass Council Board early next year, I understand. So this is moving right along.
Sure, thank you very much. And Councilor Presley.
So I just remember some of these meetings and having debates about what actually is walkable. This is an adopted home for me, and what y'all often say is walkable is actually not. So I'm glad, and that's in flat shoes or stilettos. I just want to be clear. So I'm glad that Mass Cultural Council is working closely with you on that. I just also wanted to ask a question so far as wayfinding and signage for the district, and what has been the blueprint for that. And I'm hoping, I don't know if we have to honor a very specific kind of design structure, or if we could, use the assets in this community to design something that is specific to Roxbury and that would make it even more visually dynamic and inviting. So could you speak to that?
Well, certainly the artists that are here in the community, one of whom is on the panel, Napoleon Jones-Jones, would be a possible resource for that. And if you look at arts and cultural events and efforts like Roxbury Open Studios, there's a community of artists who would be able to help with any kind of tours or guiding residents as well as visitors through the area. Dudley Main Streets, which is a supporter of the Roxbury Cultural District, they have been doing tours for years. Discover Roxbury is certainly a best practice for tours. So there are some templates, if you will, but there's also there are many resources, artistic resources that could help once we roll out the tours.
And what about visually, Kelly? Really just
Well,
in terms of-
signage,
that's
yeah,
what I mean,
right.
yeah.
That's why I was thinking of Dudley Main Streets, because at one point they'd had a local artist who I've worked with and who many of you are familiar with, Aqua Holmes. She designed street signage along, I believe it was along Dudley Street at one point. So we could certainly use the artistic expertise that's here in the community for signage
Because
as well.
other districts do have signs that say you are entering a cultural district.
Right.
And so again, it becomes very clear. Okay.
Exactly. Thank
Thank you.
Councilor Jackson.
I guess just to follow up with what Councilor Presley was saying, I think it also becomes incumbent around the city to support, right? So if there are opportunities in terms of city expenditures that we can actually have that are localized to Roxbury, I think there's a huge opportunity there in speaking of signage and having that uniqueness in terms of the way that we do things in Roxbury. So I would just advocate for that. The other piece, just on a governance structure, I just think we need to be very deliberate about seats for working artists. And I think we are strong from an organizational perspective, and having organizations and those with large financial resources on in governance and convening. I think we just have to be very deliberate and thoughtful and have the foresight to have seats that are designated for folks who are working artists in our community, because that is a very real group and a reality that is different than the reality for some who are in different roles. So I just think we just have to be very thoughtful and deliberate and to bake that into the cake. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues? All right, well, thank you so much to this first panel. We so appreciate your efforts and your testimony today. We will transition over to panel number 2. We are joined by Mr. Napoleon Jones, as you heard, local artist, Napoleon Jones Henderson, local artist and entrepreneur, and affiliated with the Research Institute of African and African Diaspora Arts. We are also joined by Mr. Barry Gaither, Director and Curator of the Museum of the Center of Afro-American Artists, and also a member of the Cultural District Planning Committee. And finally, Ms. Kristen Belton-Willis of Roxbury Open Studios. So if you can each introduce yourself and state your name and address for the record, and feel free to give an opening statement.
We sort of decided that I would go first, and I'm not sure I need this. Do I? All right. What I would like to do is to share a short statement that I prepared and which I'm happy to submit, and then to make a few notes at the end of it. Since 1969, I have been deeply involved with the cultural life of Roxbury through the vision and work of Elma Lewis, fondly called Miss Lewis. That work consisting of the Elma Lewis School of Fine Arts, founded in 1950, the Elma Lewis Playhouse in the Park, founded in 1966, and the National Center of Afro-American Artists, founded in 1968, and having numerous departments. I recall fondly that when racial friction was at its highest in the city, white people in groves were deep into the night, sitting on rocky outcroppings, listening to Duke Ellington and his orchestra in Franklin Park. Without police or city patrols of any kind, the culture of jazz created an island of warm feelings and sharing in Franklin Park. Such is the power to define the life and spirit of a place in ways that serve residents while welcoming visitors and harnessing the benefits for all. That's a kind of historical place. Today, Roxbury has the opportunity to harness its cultural assets and enhance their development while revitalizing its economy and creating growth for its businesses, large and small. The opportunity appears in the form of creating a Roxbury Cultural District. I support creation of the Roxbury Cultural District as an important step towards the rebirth of a vibrant community and as a means of helping make Roxbury a destination that stirs the interest of national and international visitors to the city. I support a Roxbury Cultural District that, though initially anchored by the Dudley Square axis, nevertheless intends to become more distributed and eventually include a richer constellation of sites linked over the compact geography of Roxbury. As the exponent of Tremont Crossing, where culture and commerce connect, and where the National Center will have a new museum and additional teaching and performance-related facilities, I lend my support to the Roxbury Cultural District Initiative and hope that Tremont Crossing will become part of it when we open there in 2019. As Executive Director of the National Center of Afro-American Artists and its museum, presently located at 300 Walnut Avenue, I support the Roxbury Cultural District even though we are not presently within its boundaries. I'm confident that with the growth and development of the Roxbury Cultural District, it will appreciate the need to extend its scope and perhaps embrace a model that expands its reach in the future. It is rare that anything expresses its full potential at birth. Yet there must be a starting place, a foundation, and the creation of the Roxbury Cultural District is that chance to begin structuring the rebirth of Roxbury, shaping it into a place that captures its best qualities and harnesses them for residents, visitors, and posterity. Now, I want to return to one note in that, which was the mention of Roxbury as a destination. Legacies are not things that you can create. They have to be generated over time. They're like worn clothes. They express a yesterday and tell you something about it. So let me just footnote a few of the things that make a legacy worthy of a destination apply in Roxbury. Of course, places are about people, and people are about spiritual expression, but also about things like food. It's hard not to think of Roxbury if you've been around here for a while and not remember fondly Ma Dixon's and Bob the Chef's, or the kind of elevated evening eating that was possible at the Businessmen's Club. These are pieces of Roxbury's history that we sometimes have lost, but they're important to cite. It's impossible to talk about the music culture of the city of Boston, particularly jazz, without anchoring it in Roxbury. It's the story that still exists in Wally's, in Slade's, in Connolly's that used to be, in Estelle's. So that's something that still has enough flavor to it that with a slight turn, you want to try and recapture an important piece of that. Roxbury has participated in important movements, especially ones having to do with Black people, especially throughout the 19th and 20th century. For example, of places in the US that played a leading role in the Black mural movement of the 1960s, Roxbury is right in line after Chicago, where the whole thing was spawned. Napoleon, next to me, can testify as a witness to that. Or if you think of important media interventions, you have to think right away of Henry Hampton on Black Side in Roxbury, and what they created in the world of knowledge and information from a resident right here in this community. Or more recently, of the Roxbury Film Festival, which has now become the International Roxbury Film Festival, but those are the children of this community, recalling the Spruills. I mean, all kinds of personalities. Or for a moment, Elma Lewis, one of the most extraordinary daughters of Boston in the 20th century. How does a community this small have someone in the first group of MacArthur Fellows, and someone who also has a Presidential Medal of Art from the federal government? Those are assets that help to make us think of ourselves as a destination that builds our esteem in positive, irreversible ways. And from that comes the kind of spirit that makes you pick up the things around you and transform them into things that people want to see and know and experience. It's that transformation of ourselves that we want to accomplish as the tool that makes Roxbury a destination. It should not be possible to land at Logan without already having decided on what transportation is going to bring you to Roxbury. When we set about to try and make parcel P3 on Tremont, it was very much from the idea that no one should come here who does not bring $1 and leave it in Roxbury. And that only happens when you become an irresistible magnet that people can't keep away from, by harnessing the total of your assets, from the remarkable 19th century architecture to the 20th century stellar personalities. That is what a cultural district can help us do, by giving us a dot around which to embroider this richer, more involved story. And I support that we should have that we should do that the state should recognize it, that Roxbury should be seen as elevating its residents, as elevating the city, and as putting Roxbury in real economic, social, cultural, and educational dialogue with the region.
Carrie, did we get that on video? I hope we did. Beautiful, thank you.
You're up for it. You're up for it. Ditto, with the exception that my name is Napoleon Jones Henderson. Barry and I go back a long way. We've done this a number of times in different places. I live here in Roxbury, in Highland Park, sometime known as Fort Hill. I, too, like the chief of culture here, Julie Burrows, and our counselor here, Presley, and our present sitting president, hail from that illustrious city of Chicago. And I've landed here in Roxbury in 1974 in the fall. Came here to teach for a year at Mass College of Art, and needless to say, I'm still here. Not teaching at Mass Art, though. I've taught at a number of institutions here in the city of Boston. Roxbury Community College is one, Emerson College, as well as Mass College of Art. And I was lucky to find a home in Highland Park that I, one, thought was aesthetically astounding. And it also provided ample space for me as an artist, as an image maker. Moving here to Boston in 1974, I, in a sense, identified Boston as the Wild West of urban real estate. Because coming from Chicago, for the amount of money that I was able to afford to buy a house in Boston, in Roxbury, I could not have bought a chair possibly in Chicago. But needless to say, I found a wonderful place. And let me give you simply a very brief history of the 42 years I've spent here in Roxbury in this particular home. And the home has not, it's simply been a place where I reside and do my artistic creations, and where I've raised two daughters and am presently enjoying an involuntary raising of, along with my daughter, my 14-year-old granddaughter. A brief history of the Institute. In a sense, just to give an intro to the Institute, it comes out of the way in which I, as an image maker, live, and the relationship of that is tagged on to what Barry mentioned about the mural movement starting in Chicago, the Wall of Respect in Chicago. We built and established that in 1967 in Chicago, and a, if you will, guerrilla activity of assuming a building that was in the community, and with the participation of the larger community, created an institution that took off around the world. And Philadelphia, not Philadelphia, but Pittsburgh, no, Philly, that's what I'm correct. Philly basically is a museum of public art in terms of murals. The brief history of the Institute. The Institute is housed in the historic Greek Revival home of the former Dr. Edward Everett Hale, who was a nephew of Nathan Hale, situated in the historic Highland Park area of Roxbury, a scenic pudding stone neighborhood of residential houses of both historic charm and splendor, as well as architectural significance. The Research Institute of African and African Diaspora Arts Incorporated was founded in 1979 for the express purpose of celebrating the cultural legacy of Africans worldwide. The Institute maintains a collection of original works of art by artists of African descent, as well as a library and collection of materials relevant to the study of African culture and thought worldwide. By extension, we work closely with other cultural and educational institutions to foster a fuller understanding of the African-centered culture and thought. Central to our mission are the development of an institution and the collection of materials germane to the African diasporic experience. To enhance the opportunity for study and enjoyment of this material, thereby fostering a richer understanding of African culture. Throughout these years, weddings, naming ceremonies, schools, social, and civic groups have gathered at the institution to celebrate this rich culture, as well as to support activities that promote international understanding. We've collaborated with many institutions, such as the Boston Public School System, with the various colleges and universities in and around the area, as well as the Museum of the National Center of Afro-American Artists and the Elmer Lewis School of Fine Arts, and many other institutions, private and public. Some of the activities that we have conducted over these years has been residencies by a Ghanaian kente cloth weaver who actually set up a kente cloth loom and wove kente cloth for a month in the house, and many people came to visit, and I still have some of that kente cloth. We have had performances by artist Ibn Pori Pitts, who was an extraordinarily gifted creative individual from Detroit, who along with myself, we established the first Juneteenth celebrations here in Boston in 1982 and continued yearly having Juneteenth celebrations from 82 until 2002, which was simply interrupted because of an architectural difficulty we had at the house and the fact that I was teaching at Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina. We've had educational and artistic tours of our collection. We have over 400 original works of art by various artists from all over the world. We have a library collection of probably 6,000 pieces of material, from pamphlets to books to out-of-print books to autographed books and various other elements of educational importance. We have yearly had Kwanzaa celebrations. We've had wedding ceremonies. And as a matter of fact, one of the most important events that took place at the Institute over the years we've been in existence was the reception for our now departed and ancestor, Alan Rowan Craig, who is the Dean of African American Artists here in not only Boston, Roxbury, but I would say New England. Just to share a small story, he called me one Sunday morning, and if anyone who knew Mr. Craig, who's here, he called me about 9 o'clock Sunday morning. He says, "Napoleon, this is Alan." I said, "Yes, Mr. Craig, I know this is you." He says, "Well, yesterday Jackie and I got married." And you must understand, Alan Craig, was 79 or something at about that time, or maybe 80. And he says, "And we were wondering if we could have our reception at your house." Napoleon, are you there? I said, "Yes, Mr. Craig, I'm here, but you should have asked me if I were one sitting down before you told me this." And so that is one of the highlights of having lived here in this town of Boston, Roxbury. We've had artist discussions and exhibitions, musical and poetry presentations. We run classes in the arts for individual schools and other institutions. And we've also, at our various Juneteenth celebrations, honored some of the individuals who have been very much a part of our life, and I say our because I consider what I do as a community activist as a member of a community, not an individual. We've honored people such as Councilor Charles Yancey, who had the wonderful opportunity and extended that to myself and the community by having the City Council of Boston legislate that I think it was 1980 that was Juneteenth in the city of Boston. And we've had a great amount of assistance and help from people like Chuck Turner, Diane Wilkerson when she was senator, Gloria Fox as representative, and many other individuals throughout the community. And throughout those years, we have had an extraordinary life of becoming an integral part of the community of Boston, and I would dare say that there are probably more people with keys to my house than I would care to like to have known, but they are, my home is a part of, it's the way that I live. Culture is a living entity. It's not a place, it's not a destination. Roxbury is a destination. Culture is the life that we have here, and I would say that if anything, what the cultural district will do is to give a broader visibility to what has already been going on in this community from well before I arrived here. And I am very pleased to have been a part of that for the 42 years and fully am supportive of the establishment of a Roxbury Cultural District. Thank you.
My name is Kristen Belton-Willis. I am a native of Roxbury and a part of the legacy of tours of Highland Park and Dudley through Discover Roxbury. I participate in Roxbury Open Studios every year. My specialty is custom ragdoll, soft sculpture, and I do a lot of creative things with African fabrics or ethnic fabrics. I am here because I need the support of Roxbury becoming a cultural district, an art district. For example, in Roxbury Open Studios, or during Roxbury Open Studios, we don't have the foot traffic that South End has or Jamaica Plain has. And that affects my pocket, and not in a good way. Let's see, I hope that we can come together and make this happen. We're losing a lot of what I had in my neighborhood in Roxbury, meaning that the community members and activists and artists and community organizers are family to me. That's lost, or it's going away, it's diminishing because of gentrification. Artists being priced out of that neighborhood, and some support is necessary. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Jackson.
Thank you so much. I'm blown away. Councilor Wu whispered to me that we could actually take the footage and cut it and actually have an amazing piece, literally on Roxbury. That was really historic and moving around the path that folks have gotten there. Barry, you've done this for so long. Your passion, you reek of passion, and you really hit on. You said the rebirth of Roxbury. What jumped into my mind is maybe a renaming of streets in Roxbury around our heroes and sheroes. So we have an indelible stamp of folks. Maybe a Roxbury Walk of Fame. Yes. A Roxbury Walk of Fame where we actually have folks who are known and will be known into the future when 100, 200 years from now, and present company included as individuals who are part of that fame. Napoleon, for you to speak about a space to create and one for your family. A space to create and one for your family in the same space. And how fleeting that is right now. To think about an artist, and you said, hey, this is a deal to come in Boston, to be able to purchase something for you to raise up your family there, but also to raise up an institute and essentially a movement that you've been able to create. I do want to note for folks who don't know, Napoleon's work is featured in the Bruce Bowling building. He is the local artist that was selected for to be featured there. It's a beautiful work of art and is a reflection of the greatness that is in our community. And Kristen, I feel the same way. My father, Herb Aku Zulu Jackson, did this work and was integral in many of these parts of the community. But the question is, what can we do in our time to make sure that our kids can be able to pass it on? And I think this is one of those steps that we have to take to make an indelible mark on and a stake in the ground that says culture lives here. Black people have lived and will continue to live in Roxbury, and we're not going to be moved. And all of the plans that occur, in particular for development, must include the people who are here. So this is more than culture. It is about our community and how we preserve our community. And as you noted, we need to do better in the support of working artists in our community. It is an integral part. And in all honesty, when we push artists out, we push businesses out of our community. And we don't have enough businesses, and we don't have enough scale in our businesses currently. And so we really want to make that real. And so I guess my only question would be, are there any other additions that you could think of that we would want to add to the ideas that are there. It's a panel full of artists, so I wanted to toss that door open relative to or any other ideas that we may be missing that we could add to this. And or any of our other cultural districts in the city of Boston that could continue to elevate the work of artists.
I would ask that some of the people in that community have lesser resources than others, I'll put it that way, so that I think that it would be important to have a slot or a space for an unqualifier to get in. We'll call it that. So as housing, artist studio space, maybe a way to be in a show if they couldn't afford the fee. You know, we're losing a lot by not including everyone.
And I would also just note on the historic record, I know many of the people in this room were there. Nelson Mandela visited Boston. And Nelson Mandela, upon being freed, came here because Boston is one of the first cities, through Councilor Yancey's work, that actually passed legislation for the city of Boston to divest in holdings in and doing business with South Africa. And so as a 14-year-old, I was at Madison Park on that very, 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 very hot day, but got to be in the presence of Nelson Mandela. And he didn't just come to Boston, he came to Roxbury. And I think that is a critical piece that we need to honor in the city of Boston. But I just want to let you know, you elevate us as a community, and I'm just so honored to be in your presence tonight, because I just feel so lifted by this, and I think this will be one of those things that will really get us the kickstart we need to ensure that we are all still here in 10, 15, and 20 years.
Well, just to add to that, that particular day in which Mandela was at Madison Park, you might recall also the very large mural of Nelson Mandela and many other activists from South Africa that was done by Paul Goodnight and a group of other young artists. So that's evident of the power and presence of culture as a living entity within the visual context, the culinary context, the child rearing context, the holy context, and the holy context. So giving it a boundary is one thing, but recognizing it as a living entity is even more important.
I feel like we just had church tonight at the city council.
Councilor Presley.
Yes, all of you, such a source of pride and inspiration. And I was tempted to say, Mr. Gaither, you're so similar to a Paul Robeson, or, but I don't even want to liken, I don't want to liken any of you to anyone, because you're yourself. Yeah. And you're beautiful just as you are. And thank you for being here this evening. So we spoke earlier about the financial needs, and that they'll need to be fundraising in order to have effective governance and sustainability. So I hope I'm not speaking too out of turn, but something else that happened in this space that was very powerful was the Solidarity Summit, Ujima, Boston. And I love that as Black folks, we are moving towards a more cooperative economic model and skill share. And in a matter of hours, for those that would, even within our own community, question what is our investment power, and do we have purchasing power, and do we have disposable income, I think we raised something like $10,000 in 2 hours. And I don't mean pledges. People got online and made a contribution. And so we heard about everything from bees and honey to bikes and tech, all very worthwhile ventures that we should invest in. And yes, the city of Boston given all that Roxbury contributes, we should be stepping up formidably as well once this designation is institutionalized to make sure that it's successful. But I want to ask that co-op and the residents of Roxbury, I mean, you can't sit here and hear wisdom like this and in some ways experience artistry. Kristen, I wish you would have brought your dolls. They are beautiful. And you're sleeping on one of your gifts. She's an incredible baker. So, as well. And so I just wanted to throw that out, that we consider something cooperative to support this district, which belongs to us. And we should have no qualms about investing in it. The second thing I want to say, Kristen, I just love how just plainly you said, as an artist, I need support and I need help. I can't tell you the number of young people I've met who have been discouraged and dissuaded from pursuing that which is their God-given gift and they're the most passionate about, because their parents have convinced them they will not be able to make a living. And there's enough all around them to support that that's true. And shame on us. Because we know that you can't, why do we add that aid to STEM and make it STEAM? Because without arts and creativity, there is no innovation. So you can't have STEM without that, that A. You need that arts, you need that innovation. And so we have to make it possible for artists to, as Councilor Jackson and Councilor Wu have both spoken about the need for housing stock and artist space. But this is important because there are folks that are not contributing at their full potential for fear that they won't be able to make a living. And we can't just be selfish and get the benefit of all the arts has to offer without making that investment. So, Kristen, I love your asking about a slot for those that, how did you phrase it, are unqualified? Okay. So who perhaps don't meet the limiting criteria to participate. So let me just ask you a question. Is a pop-up space something that would be helpful?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're going to add that to the list of things for us to follow up on. In addition to the Roxbury Walk of Fame that Councilor Jackson mentioned, and also the renaming of streets. Now, this gets me to a bigger issue, and this is what I want to ask you folks about. We know the process of naming anything, especially when we have so many giants in our community, which is, we have an embarrassment of riches, if you will. Could you speak to, I'm looking at the church assets and the restaurants and things like that. How were these arrived at? Was this sort of on a wall and whichever got the most stickers or the most vote? What was the process to ultimately determine, given the many assets, what went into the district?
We started with what was already in the district. So one of the ways that we generated the list, if you will, I'm assuming that you're referring to the list of arts and cultural assets
the
that
draft,
are on the map.
Yes.
We started with kind of an informal audit of the arts and cultural assets that are in the community, but some of the feedback that we got in the series of public meetings, we got feedback on what some of those assets are. But more importantly, what came out of those meetings was kind of a template that we were able to put on online, on the map, and then online. And then people were able to go online and then choose where they saw the assets being. So if you go online now, you can contribute. You can, based on the categories that you see on the map, you can actually contribute to the kind of the cluster of arts and cultural assets that you see. And what we found was that we were kind of validated in our initial audit of what we thought were the arts and cultural assets, because when people went online and started using the map, they gravitated toward some of the assets that are in the Dudley Square area and that are in Elliott Square. Not exclusively so, but it was a combination of feedback that we received at the public meetings, our own knowledge of the assets that are in the community, and help from people like Byron and
Great.
Representative Rushing.
So the
and Barry
community
Gaither.
confirmed some of what
Right.
a lot of that blueprint, but then they
Yes.
also elucidated you to assets you might not had immediately considered. Okay.
Right.
So just two quick things, because we all engage our social media platforms. So for how much longer can people, since the process is still malleable, can people go online, because we'll share that link, and see what's happening and or weigh in?
I believe the map is still up, and you can still go on and based on your own preferences for what you think are arts and cultural assets, you can contribute to the map, or you can look at the categories that are already there and the names of arts and cultural assets that are already there and place them on the map as well.
Okay.
And the idea, I think they call it data mapping or data mining, where you can see the clusters where people tend to gravitate towards, and that helps you to tell a story about where the consensus is about arts and cultural assets and where they are in the community.
Okay, great. And then the last thing I would just say is just thank you for being wholly inclusive in your definition of the arts, because I do think we can sometimes default to only performing or only fine, but not consider history or the humanities. And you've done an incredible job at incorporating all, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Presley. Councilor Sabi George.
Thank you again, and I do have to just say that I'm very overwhelmed by certainly the pride and the stories and the history and the rich history that you remain attached to and continue to share, because there's always certainly something more to learn. And I think that for me and for the sustained success of this district over generations is really, I think, Barry, what you said about bringing that dollar and leaving it here, and how important it is for us to support the art and to support that culture, but to also maintain that focus on the economic stability of this district and making sure that we're doing that along the way, because if we're not doing that, then it just continues to be a story and a woulda, coulda, and I wish we should have. And we don't create access points for those that need to really gain that exposure in an affordable way. So we've got to keep coming back to that dollar and making sure that that dollar gets here and stays here and gets circulated through. I don't have any other questions. I'm really, truly overwhelmed by, just for me, the information and certainly the pride that you've all shared in this work. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. I think we're all feeling uplifted and inspired and ready to get to work on this. So we can do one more huge round of applause for them. So at this point, I want to try to nudge us a little bit closer to being back on schedule and make sure that our wonderful staff who are keeping this building open for us we're sort of picking up the pace a little bit. We're going to transition to public testimony. I will call 2 or 3 names at a time, and if you could just sort of get in line behind this microphone over here, so we'll make sure the camera can see you. And please keep your testimony to 2 minutes. Same procedure. If you can state your name and your address for the record, and then please share your thoughts. So we'll start with Marilyn Andre, Joyce Bowling, and Joe Johnson, please.
My name is Marilyn Andre, and I live at 9 Fennell Street. But most importantly, I work in Roxbury at the Elliott Congregational Church of Roxbury, both in administration and in the arts, as my business partner, Judge Wright, who could not be here tonight, and I have a program in the arts for young people ages 4 to young adult of any age, called the Butterfly Project. And and we offer violin, piano, voice, dance, step, percussion to kids, but most importantly about that is that they get a chance to perform. We provide platforms and venues for them to perform in. We collaborate with the National Center of Afro-American Artists and with Elliott Church so that our young people have some cohesiveness there. And we also, as many know, Milton Wright is a playwright, and a lot of our young people participated in the production, which was performed right here at the Hibernian Hall, and to sold-out audiences, I'm happy to say. So we have another program called the Common House Theater and Productions. We are very fortunate because we are housed at Elliott Church through the benevolence of our pastor, Reverend Hines. And we realize that some artists, some groups do not have a place where they can rehearse and prepare to go out and perform. They have to pay for a space. We try to give back as much as we can to the church, but they've been very good to us. And we also allow these kids to come in and study for, some of them, $35 for the whole year, some $70, and some nothing, especially the younger teens and young adults, because we want to give them somewhere to learn and to grow. We thank Barry. I also forgot to say that Milton Wright and I are both co-directors, music directors for Black Nativity, which is in its 46th year this year. Milton is the adult choral director. I am the children's music director and also the vocal coach for the soloists. And I also agree with you, Kristen, about finding affordable housing. I am a certified artist, and it's very difficult to find to live that I can afford. So that I can agree with that. So that's it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Living history. So it's always nice to have you guys come to Roxbury. I mean, I know a couple of you live in Roxbury. No, one lives in Roxbury, but it's always good. I wanted to first kind of thank the folks who took an idea that's been circulating for at least 40 years, right, Barry? And basically pulled it together into something that I feel will be a wonderful gift to this community. And I want to start with my friends over at TAC. I know Carol's over here, Charlotte's here, Bink is in the back. Also the folks over at Madison Park and the absolutely wonderful Kelly, who always brings something extra to whatever she does. I was a student at Elma Lewis School. My son, Bruce Bowling Jr., sang 2 years in Black Nativity. And so, you know, I'm very familiar with some of the treasures that we've had here that are now no longer here. And I am also very familiar with the fact that we need to support our artists
in greater ways than we do. This summer, Napoleon and I were invited to speak to a group of young people. And, you know, as a mother, I can tell you that I was pretty shocked by the lack of cultural knowledge that these young people had, and history. And so I most agree with Councilor Presley that we've got to leave a better legacy for, you know, our young people. And the cultural and historic legacy of Roxbury is just so rich. And I'm just very excited about this opportunity because I feel that, you know, when I was going to school, they didn't teach Black history. And so we fought for it. I mean, we took over Boston State Building, many of us, and we fought for it. I think that when people think of Roxbury, the negativity, the methadone mile, and all that craziness, I don't even know where that came from, but there are brighter and wonderful things going on here, and I think that pulling it together to show people that the richness of our people and the richness of our culture is just so critical for this and the next generation. I can't wait for P3 to finally get done so that we can really visit spiritually Elma Lewis, who was just incomparable, and no one like her ever. So that's all that I wanted to say, that I really am very supportive of this effort, and I can commit to you that whatever I can do, and you know, I can do some considerable things when I want to. I'd like to see this happen in my lifetime. And, you know, for our young people, if for nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. While Mr. Johnson's making his way up, if the next group could prepare yourselves, it'll be Frederick Woodard III, Akiba Abaki, and Akiba Abaka, and Don Carlson.
How you doing? My name is Joseph Johnson. I'm a Roxbury resident. I've been living in Roxbury for over 30 years now. I actually own a home in Roxbury. Yay. That's something you all should try to do, is own a piece of the Roxbury. I'm delighted to be here. Well, I'm actually working and sort of here as a Roxbury citizen. I was born in Trinidad in the West Indies, and my family moved here in 1973. And one of the things that I was so delighted to see was that there was a group of people that actually brought the Caribbean culture to Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, and that legacy still goes on today. It's over 40 years in the making. The Caribbean Carnival in Boston, I think many of you have participated or viewed that at some point in time in your life. And this district designation is very important to me because I think that my community, not just the Black community, but the Caribbean community as a whole, has contributed to the overall cultural development of Roxbury and the entire community of Boston. And it will be great to see that as part of the designation that any festivals or cultural activities that has been in Boston for over, I would say maybe 10 or 20 years, be included in the designation as a heritage designation and be funded through the district, the state, so that it can be continued on and sustained forever. That's one of the suggestions I would have. And also, as part of the designation, there be some kind of funding through the residents, or either homeowners, businesses, to have a trust fund to also contribute to any cultural events throughout, for instance, the museum, or any physical space that has existed similar to this space, Hibernian Hall, to preserve it and to also make sure that it is sustained and continue. But one of my biggest suggestion, I think, is also as part of the district designation that the schools within the district, from K to 12, be, it's important to me that the youth have that opportunity to learn the arts and culture. And I don't think that the Boston Public Schools have enough of that. I don't know if they teach music anymore in the Boston Public Schools. I don't know if they teach drama anymore in the Boston Public Schools, ballet or anything like that. But as part of the district, it should be mandated that these type of activities be part of the curriculum. So I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So that's one of the things I was looking at. So I don't know what the other designated communities are doing, and I don't know if that has been one of the research project to determine what they have done, and we could, you know what I'm talking about. So those are some of the things I think should be included, and I think Roxbury has been a mecca for culture and diversity, and I think it should be, given this designation. And, it shouldn't be a lot of hearings about it. It should just do it.
Do it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson.
It should be noted that Boston has the third largest Caribbean carnival in North America, after Toronto and Brooklyn.
Hi, my name is Fred Woodard. I live at 53 West Cotter Street, that's Upham's Corner. And I play the violin, and I performed here right in this very room more times than I can count. I just think it's very important that this area become a cultural district, especially to the youth, because it would influence a lot of youth to embrace the arts, because they see that they can now make a career out of the arts, which I have done myself. And I think it would also be important because then the schools would start to take notice and start to have more of the arts in the schools, to help out the students, because as we all know, not everybody can hoop, not everybody can play ball. So I think it's important to, put the arts out there and make sure that the youth can be involved in arts, and there's a space for not just the youth, but everybody to display their art and also make money from their art. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Akiba Abaka. I am the Audience Development Manager at Arts Emerson. I reside at 8 Pleasanton Street in Grove Hall. As an artist, entrepreneur, and social arts worker, Roxbury and this particular district has always said yes to me. In my former role as founding artistic director of Up You Mighty Race Company, the Dudley Square neighborhood provided direct access to our target audience, people of African descent. This district provided agency and a public platform for us to speak to and develop our audience. Promotion in ways such as promotionally having street teams in the Dudley Square Bus Depot, the presentation of my play To Save a Dying World at the Haley House, at the invitation of Art is Life Itself, a weekly poetry venue. hosting of the Roxbury leg of the Boston Public Library tour of our 2004 production of Langston Hughes's Don't You Want to Be Free, providing extended rehearsal space here at Madison Park Development Corporation for Catherine Jones's 409 Edgecombe Avenue, which we premiered at the Boston Center for the Arts, collaborating with Marshall Hughes and the Media Arts Center at Roxbury Community College for a 3-director salute to August Wilson to celebrate his life when we learned that he had passed on. And this was a wonderful cultural bridging opportunity because the salute was presented in Roxbury and also in Cambridge at the Cambridge Center for Adult Education. And also hosting a community welcome party, our introduction to the Museum of African American Artists, for Felicia Rashad and the cast of August Wilson's Gem of the Ocean. At the time, speaking of public agency or public platform, Up Your Mighty Race was only 4 years old at the time. We were a small theater company, and we were looking for a way to increase visibility of our work. And so by having the Museum of the National Center for Afro-American Artists give us space where we could throw Felicia Rashad a party in Roxbury and welcome her to Boston, we were able to actually cross-market our production of Joe Turner's Come and Gone with the Huntington's production of Gem of the Ocean. And let me tell you, it worked. Most recently, most recently, this community and this particular hall that we stand in was the host to my newest play, What's a Notion? A story documenting and celebrating the 60-year history of the Abdahalik family, owners of a Nubian Notion. Among its Roxbury highlights, the play featured Malcolm X, memories of WILD, Funky Fresh Records, and the precursors to Uber, the gypsy cab drivers that line Warren Street and Dudley Streets. In my own sustainability as an artist, I was one of the first certified City of Boston artists to receive artist housing across the street at the Dartmouth Hotel. This allowed me to reside in Roxbury and build my network during the height of Up You Mighty Race's popularity, the years 2005 to 2008. In my present role as Audience Development Manager at Arts Emerson, the World on Stage at Emerson College, this neighborhood has served as a gateway to the arts, connecting residents in the surrounding neighborhoods to the artistic programming in the revitalized historic Boston Theater District. Arts Emerson has collaborated with Roxbury community organizations such as the National Center for Afro-American Artists, Roxbury Community College, and Hibernian Hall to present what has become, from my little hustle with you in the first year, what has become the Welcome to Boston Cast Party, a community-hosted cast party that welcomes national and international artists on our stages to the city of Boston. The event takes this form and the practice from Roxbury's Grande Dame of the Arts and Emerson College alum, Miss Elma Ina Lewis. The event features an artist-to-artist salute that spotlights the work of Boston artists. To date, we have hosted 3 of these events in this district, the first one being welcoming the country's oldest Latino theater troupe, Culture Clash, which we hosted here in the Hibernian Hall. 25 years after Nelson Mandela visited Roxbury at the Madison Park High School, this district played host to the Ashango Ensemble from South Africa last fall at Roxbury Community College. Some people here were at that event. It was really powerful. And just last month, the same hall played host to Quebec City's Machine de Cirque in a celebration of circus and theater. It was amazing. We are currently in the 3rd year of our Play Reading Book Club, a theater literacy program founded at the Dudley Branch Library, which is now in its, which is now expanded to 5 additional neighborhoods, including Newton and Cambridge. We were able to develop that here at the Dudley Branch Library. Finally, for the past 3 years, Arts Emerson has provided a home for Black nativity in the theater district of Boston. This is an act of cultural bridging, which is a part of our community curators program. So not only is this district giving birth to amazing art and opportunities, but it is also a bridge. Just like, you know, it's interesting, we do sit at the gate of the Isthmus, Washington Street being the Isthmus that connected mainland. This used to be the countryside. Y'all know this better than me. So here we are at the lip of the Isthmus that connects us to the city of Boston, and it's still happening, and it's happening through the arts. So say yes to this cultural district the way this district has said yes to me as an artist. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And while Mr. Carlson is coming up, the next group will be David Lee and Kai Grant.
Good evening, councilors and everyone else. My name is Don Carlson. I live at 17 Gloucester Street. I'm a director of Jazz Boston. Jazz Boston is a nonprofit that's dedicated to growing the jazz scene in the greater Boston area. We've programmed events here at Hibernian Hall and other places in Roxbury. I'd just like to say that we really enthusiastically support the notion of establishing a Roxbury Cultural District. For one thing, it fits beautifully with our mission. It fits beautifully with one of our programs, which is to bring jazz into the neighborhoods. We started that a couple of years ago, and the neighborhoods we're talking about are Mattapan, Dorchester, and Roxbury, and of course Roxbury's the core of it all. A second program that we have, which is being developed by our president, Pauline Bilski, who wanted to be here tonight but couldn't, is the formation of a Boston Jazz Heritage Trail, which would celebrate the people and places that have been so important to the development of jazz in the Boston area. And again, Roxbury is the core of that, the beginning of that. So all of this fits beautifully with what we would like to do, and would love to enhance the district, would like to enhance the businesses that circle around jazz, the performers, the venues, the publicists, the writers, all the people involved in the jazz community. And if we can help grow that, that's exactly what we would like to do. That's our mission. Thank you.
Is Mr. Lee still here? I think he might have. Okay, so we'll hear it from Kai, and we're going to have to step it up a little bit. We were just informed that the building does need to shut down at 8:30. Our lovely hosts do need to move on, and so I'll ask everyone to please keep time, and I'll pardon me for being rude and cutting you off. Ms. Grant.
Hi, my name is Kai Grant, and I'm actually a resident of John Elliott Square. I'm representing the John Elliott Square Neighborhood Association. My husband, Christopher Grant, is sitting right here, and we're entrepreneurs in addition to artists. We love to create culture, and we love to create connections and spaces that would allow our community to come together, primarily for art and economic prosperity. So I wanted to thank the panel for coming out tonight and giving us great memories and helping us to remember where we come from and whose shoulders we stand on. I also wanted to thank the city councilors for coming out to this important event, because this has to be supported, and it has to be something that we champion as the future for our community. So John Elliott Square Neighborhood Association is in support of the designation of John Elliott Square as a core neighborhood, as a proposed part of this art district. We want to make sure that the community understands that we are a very tight-knit community. John Elliott Square is a quadrant of Highland Park. Highland Park is where my great-grandmother, Mamie, resided, in addition to my grandmother, Doris Bowden, and my parents, Clifford B. Janey and Janaea McGee Janey. So I am a child of Highland Park, truly. We had some initial concerns at the beginning with the process that we were able to work out. I still believe there are some things that could have gone a little more smoothly because a lot of the meetings were held during the daytime or the invitations were totally open. Carol she did a great job, and so did you, Kelly. We appreciate Dylan, who came forward and really tried to explain how the process was going to work. We just would have appreciated, as the neighborhood, for some of those meetings to actually take place in John Elliott Square and not outside, of our community. Or, for instance, some of them took place in Dudley Square, which was great. But it would have been wonderful to have roundtables and, true grassroots flyering and surveys and things like that for the neighbors. Door knocking is also a way that we get the word out. So, we believe that the Haley House in Madison Park and the American City Coalition, with all of their tireless work, you guys really truly want to recognize and celebrate all of the wonderful art scene that has burgeoned and thrives. And we just want to remind you that, this is not new. It's been mentioned by everybody that got up here and all the council. There are certain things that need to be highlighted, like the Maury Star Studio, which spawned the Johnson Crew, New Edition, and New Kids on the Block. Robert Patton Spruill and Patty Moreno's Film Shack on Roxbury Street. Dan and Johnny Cruz, they have an annual Christmas tree lighting and caroling every year, and that is self-funded and something that they do. My mother, Janaea McGee Janey, had an art studio. The Mukunda Project has jazz concerts, Patriots Day reenactment, Discover Roxbury's open studios, Candelaria and all of her contributions to the art scene. The First Church of Roxbury is doing a wonderful job with the new Reverend Mary Margaret Earl. And they've had several events all spring and summer. The Timothy School has an annual concert, a violin concert that needs to be focused on, because we need to have some folks that are under, 40, 30, 20 that are coming up to this mic, like that young man from Upham's Corner. And we want to be able to, pay homage to also the Black veterans. They have a parade that comes down Dudley Street and that ends at Gordine Park. But it's important for John Elliott Square Neighborhood Association and all of our stakeholders to look towards the future. So we want to highlight the past. We want to make sure it's recognized. This past summer, my husband and I were able to
Sorry, I want to make sure we have enough time for the others.
Yes, I'm almost done too. We were able to produce the first Highland Park Music Festival. That was important to us, and we did that, out of our pocket, and it was a representation of our restaurant, which is being established right now in John Elliott Square. So these things are extremely important. It's something that, we want to leave the committee with, because we don't take it lightly. The cultural gravitas, of these extremely important, events that have taken place, in addition to music and culture and fashion and artistry, it's extremely important. So one of the key takeaways for us and discussions that we had is we want some dedicated space for artists to live, so that they're able to, and it'll have to be in some way, shape, or form affordable, in addition to incubator space for artists, to have gallery space, in addition to, we need more storefronts, and we need some of these storefronts that are being used for nonprofit usage to actually be used for not just nonprofit uses. I don't want to, get into politics of church and nonprofit, but we need to have some economically driven spaces that are dedicated to businesses. So thank you for listening tonight, and we appreciate all of your work.
Thank you very much. And the final two speakers that we have signed up, I hope they're still here, Chief Wampamiquan Wampatuk and Nina La Negra. Oh, okay, Chief. And is Nina still here? Yes. Great. And if anyone else wishes to testify but has not signed up, please just come up afterwards as well, and we'll try. We have exactly 9 minutes before everything shuts down.
Hello and good evening, honorable counselors. It's great to see you all. Good evening to the community leaders and our distinguished guests. Thank you for all of your hard work and dedication in this amazing, amazing, amazing community here of Massachusetts. Truly, my name is Wampamiquan Wampatuck, and I serve as a tribal chief of a very local Massachusetts indigenous community here. I also serve as an ambassador to United Indigenous Nations, to the United Nations in consultative status. I would only ask that the partners and all of the organizations who have worked so hard and dedicated to this cause and creating this, this cultural district to be very culturally sensitive to where we really are today. This area of Roxbury was called Shamit, and it came from my ancestor. His name was Nani Pashamit, and we remember him every time we come here in Roxbury. And even to for the other organizations to support the indigenous communities here with things such as calling this community the John Elliott Square may be of offense to the indigenous peoples. Maybe we should start by supporting our indigenous community to help and rename this area back to its original name of what it was, maybe something like a village that once was. One of those things, but I really just wanted to say thank you to all of you. Councilor Jackson, you're amazing. Councilor Wu, you're amazing. Ayanna Presley, you're amazing. You guys are wonderful. Again, let's work on consultative status with supporting and working in a collaborative effort to promote the government-to-government responsibility of the Commonwealth State of Massachusetts with the Massachusetts. In my language, askole kwashin itampuag ni tishkintag dikukang kikishnile da'aon kera ale akskintikag. I'm saying thank you to everybody for coming out, and please remember those who came truly before us when we talk about Roxbury or Shama or Nani Pashime Kontonki Kishnidag. Peace Kanash and Tabatni on the way on to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief.
I'm too short. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hard act to follow. Thank you, Chief. He said a lot of words that I wanted to share with you. I'm Nina La Negra, and I live in the 7th District, the 9th Ward. And Roxbury is my heart. Roxbury is the heart of Boston. Roxbury is the heart of the universe. This is what I call it. And for 11 years, last Thursday, we celebrated our 11th birthday at the Haley House Bakery Cafe for Art is Life Itself. It used to be for 10 years a weekly performance series where everyone was welcome, all sizes, all hairstyles, shoe sizes, eye colors, ethnicities, spiritual beliefs, and we got together and we connected around food, art, culture, and spirituality. So now this year, because 10 years wore me out, we do it once a month. And we've had everybody there from the star of Mozambique to the stars sitting at this table, to the stars in this room, to great-grandmothers and little babies. My grandson came when he was 1 month old, and he went back just recently at age 8, and he engaged in powerful dialogue around art and culture and spirituality. I think he informed a few people. So, you know, but I'm the grandmother, I'm just bragging. But I really want to say that there were some powerful ideas that were shared tonight. Take the glasses off so she can read. The idea of renaming streets in Roxbury. As I understand, there's a battle going on right now around Malcolm X Boulevard. That name is trying to be changed. You know, I think we need to wake up. Creating a Roxbury Walk of Fame, putting the A in STEM, STEAM, S-T-E-A-M. The arts must be in there with the sciences, otherwise you get mad scientists. No offense to any scientists in the room, but I think you need that other side of the brain too. That the arts and music must be taught in the public schools. The name of my series is Art is Life Itself, because art continues to save my life. I've been an artist since I was 4 years old. Both of my parents were artists. I come from a family of artists, and we need to also explore and embrace artrepreneurship. I've been told all my life, not by my family, but by others, oh, don't become an artist. You won't make any money. You'll starve as an artist. That is not true. As you can see, I have not starved. And I've made most of my money in my lifetime from art. But there needs to be training. There needs to be incubators, as Katie mentioned. And I also want to let you know, this is my final, two things. One, that there is art going on right here in this building, even as we speak across the hall. VCR is holding down Verbalization, which is the longest running open mic in Boston right now. Thank you for bringing this city council hearing to the city, to Roxbury. And the other thing is I'm also board member of United Neighbors of Lower Roxbury. And United Neighbors of Lower Roxbury is a 45-year-old organization. And when it was announced that the Highway 95 took a U-turn around Roxbury, it was the people that founded United Neighbors of Lower Roxbury, the neighbors that stopped that highway from mowing down those houses, those homes that are still standing. And so we're here, and we're still kicking. We got our 501c3 reinstated. We're absolving ourselves of taxes that we should never have paid. Right now, that process is happening, and we are here to develop housing for artists, community space, and more. So please, when you hear United Neighbors of Lower Roxbury, say yes and come and help us. Thank you so much.
Ms. Lanegra. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for an amazing evening. We could talk about this all night and the next day and the next day. So lots more work to do. Thank you for the work so far. I'm going to hand it over for quick closing to our two co-sponsors.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. A resounding push to move full speed ahead on this. We know that sometimes things can move slow in certain buildings. We are going to put this in the fast lane and attempt to push this forward as soon as possible. Huge shout out to TAC, Madison Park, and Kelly Chun for the work that has been done, and Haley House. Yes, I can. There's a whole lot that I can say about Haley House, especially the work that they do in the food. Nearly $2.5 billion is spent in Roxbury alone. James Jennings just shared that information with us. But we have 17% unemployment in Roxbury. 17% unemployment. The state of Massachusetts has 3.9% unemployment. The urgency in which we must move is we have no time to waste when it comes to what people need in our community. We must move full speed ahead in government. Councilor Presley brought up pop-up shops and 8 ways to get us out here. You sent a clarion call. You said, I need help. I need help. It is our job to present and connect the resources that you need to move this forward. And just the Color of Wealth report speaks to the disparity that we have in Boston. In 2015, white families are worth $247,500, and black families are worth $8. $8. We must move with urgency. Art is culture. Art is also life itself, but also art is business. And it is a way for our people to do better for themselves, take care of themselves. And I'm so motivated by what Napoleon said, to house, create, and raise a family in the same place. That is an amazing goal that we should have for all of our artists. Full speed ahead.
Yes, so thank you to everyone, and I did just want to again just underscore that this is simply procedural. No one needs to lobby the counselors here or anyone else on the council for this designation. This is just a part of the process with which to make this real, okay? So I hope everyone is leaving here uplifted and encouraged. And I do just have to say, art is also the culinary arts, and so I encourage all of you to please support every space that is creating community around food and jobs and contributing to the economy here, and especially new ones that have come online thanks to our liquor license reform efforts. So shout out to Suya Joint, Dudley Doe, Dudley Cafe, and of course, always Haley House. And the last thing I want to say is that we are all artists, especially civic artisans. So please vote. Thank you.
Thank you. This will conclude tonight's hearing on docket 1304. More to come and a committee report to follow. Tonight's meeting is adjourned.